What is the true price of a miracle? When the land is dust and the bellies are hollow, a single act of generosity can feel like salvation. But what if that salvation was a transaction? A deal signed not with a handshake, but with a handful of dirt? This is the story of a famine, a final act of kindness, and the terrible, growing truth that some blessings are just debts in disguise. In the village of Izulu Lokuphumula, heaven of rest, there was no rest. The sky was a relentless brass bowl. The earth, a cracked fist. The great dry had entered its third year. Hope was a memory. Survival was arithmetic. Bheki, as they called him, was a farmer whose lineage was the soil itself. But his storeroom held only ghosts of past harvests and one final, precious clay pot. Inside, enough maize seeds for one small plot, his family's last hope to outlast the famine. His wife, Thandazwi, their ribs showing, pleaded. "It is ours. Our children's lives are in that pot." His brother, Sibonello, greedy and sharp-eyed, demanded. "Plant it. We take our share and let the weak find their own way." But Bheki looked at his neighbors. At old Mam Gully, who had no family. At his friend Quinili, whose baby cried from hunger. His faith, a quiet, stubborn flame, told him a single truth: a seed hoarded in famine is a seed already dead. With a prayer to ancestors he wasn't sure were listening, he did the unthinkable. He divided his last seeds among the 10 neediest families in the village, keeping only a dozen for himself. "Plant them together," he said, his voice cracking. "If we fall as a village." They planted the pitiful grains in the dust, watering them with tears. That night, a strange, warm wind blew, smelling of damp soil and something sweetly rotten. And in the morning, a miracle. Where the shared seeds had been sown, the earth was not just fertile. It was alive. Vibrant, knee-high maize stalks stood where there had been nothing, their leaves a shocking, emerald green. Overnight. It was impossible. It was divine. The village wept with joy. Bheki was hailed as a prophet, a saint. His own dozen seeds, planted apart, had also sprouted, but normally. It was the shared plot, the field of mercy, that defied nature. The harvest from the field of mercy was not just abundant. It was perpetual. The stalks, when picked, would regrow the next dawn. The maize was fat, sweet, and more nourishing than any grain they'd ever tasted. One cob could feed a family for a day. The famine was broken. Izulu Lokuphumula became a beacon. People traveled from barren lands to witness the endless field. Bheki's status became that of a chief. But he felt uneasy. The field was too perfect. The corn had no pests. Crows would circle but never land. And the soil. It was always warm, even on cold nights, and a deep, unnatural black. The first sign was the taste. After eating the miracle maize for weeks, Thandazwi commented, "It tastes like the first rain on dry earth." And something else. Something like memory. People began to dream vividly of their ancestors, of lost loved ones. Pleasant dreams at first. Then, old Mam Gully, the first recipient of Bheki's charity, passed in her sleep. A gentle end. But when they went to bury her, they found her personal garden, where she'd planted a single kernel from the miracle harvest, was overflowing with a grotesque, pulsating bounty. The maize cobs there were oversized, their kernels arranged in patterns that looked disturbingly like a smiling, wrinkled face. Her face. Bheki's brother, Sibonello, saw not horror, but opportunity. "The field doesn't just give food," he whispered, his eyes gleaming. "It preserves. It's making her part of the harvest." Bheki demanded they leave the field fallow. The village, now fat and fearful of returning hunger, refused. "You gave us the gift," they argued. You cannot take it back. The second death was not peaceful. Cornelie, Bheki's friend, choked on the maize. Not on a cob, but on a single, hard kernel that seemed to jump to his throat. As he died, his eyes wide, the field behind his hut erupted. The stalks grew twisted, forming a crude, leaning silhouette of a man holding his neck. Now, terror took root. But a deeper, more insidious hunger did too. The maize was addictive. Those who tried to eat normal food found it ash in their mouths. Their bodies craved the miracle grain. The village was enslaved to its own salvation. Bheki sought out the last living keeper of the old ways, a blind diviner named Nkosafenjul who lived in a cave at the edge of the wasted lands. The old man listened, his milky eyes seeming to see the field in his mind. You did not plant seeds of maize, Bekazizwi, Nkosafenjul rasped. You planted seeds of promise. In the depth of the great dry, your act of sacrifice was a beacon. It did not call to the ancestors. It called to Umhlabathi Omnyama, the black earth hunger, a spirit of the deep places that feeds on bonds, on community, on sacrifice itself. The field is alive, the diviner continued. It is a stomach. It fed on the shared hope of your village. Now, to keep producing, it must feed on more. First, it fed on the memory of the departed, like Mam Gully. Then, on the life of your friend. Its appetite grows with the harvest. You made a deal, sustenance for connection. It will now consume every connection you have, love, friendship, kinship, until the village is just a field of well-fed ghosts, bound to the soil that ate them. Bheki returned, shattered. He told the village they must burn the field. They reacted with fury, led by his own brother, Sibonello. He is jealous. He wants the power for himself. Sibonello declared, and the desperate villagers, their eyes glazed with the maize's satisfaction, agreed. That night, Sibonello went to the field of mercy to claim it as his own. He was found at dawn. Not dead. Transformed. His body was rooted to the ground, his skin like bark, his mouth open in a silent scream. From his fingertips sprouted tiny, perfect maize stalks. He was becoming part of the field's ecosystem. A living scarecrow. This horror finally broke the village's trance. But it was too late. The field's influence had spread. The original plot was now the heart, but every garden where its kernels had been shared was a node, a tributary feeding the same hungry spirit. The black earth hunger began to speak. Not in words, but in a rustling chorus that rose from every stalk at twilight. It whispered their private fears, their secret shames, replaying old arguments and betrayals. The village was being poisoned not just physically, but spiritually, fed on a diet of their own dissolving bonds. Bheki knew what he had to do. The diviner said the deal was made on shared hope. It had to be broken by shared sacrifice. But not a sacrifice to the field. A sacrifice of the field. He proposed the unthinkable. To starve the spirit, they must starve themselves. They must all willingly eat the last of the normal, failing crops, endure the agony of withdrawal from the miracle maize, and then set fire to every single contaminated plant, including the people, like Sibonello, who were merging with it. It was a death sentence for many. The choice was, die quickly as men, or live a little longer as food for a hungry earth. The night before the agreed-upon burning, the field struck its final, cruelest blow. It targeted Bheki's last, pure bond. His love for his wife. Thandazwi, trying to be strong, had secretly kept a single cob from the first miracle harvest, a memento of her husband's great heart. That night, the cob in her hut pulsed with a sickly light. Vines of dark maize stalk burst from it, wrapping around her as she slept, pulling her towards their source. Bheki awoke to her screams. He found her in their yard, half dragged towards their own small, contaminated garden, the earth opening up like a maw beneath her feet. The spirit wasn't just consuming bonds. It was consuming the bonds themselves, literally pulling his loved ones into the soil. With a roar of pure anguish, Bheki did not reach for a weapon. He reached for the only thing he had left, his own authority, his own connection to the land that had birthed this curse. He took his hunting knife and cut his palm, letting his blood fall onto the grasping roots. "You want a sacrifice," he screamed at the rustling darkness. "You want connection? Take from me. I am the source. I planted the promise. Untangle from them and feed on me." He offered himself as the sole, final payment. The field went silent. Then, a single, massive stalk erupted before him, from which hung a colossal, pulsing cob. It split open, not revealing kernels, but a dark, hollow space. The voice of Umhlabathi Omnyama echoed from it, a sound of grinding stones and roots. The sower offers himself. A root for roots. A bond for bonds. Enter. And the village goes free. It was a trade. His life, absorbed into the field, to sever all other contracts. Bheki made his choice. He embraced Thandazwi, whispered his love, and then turned and walked into the dark opening in the colossal cob. It sealed around him. The effect was instantaneous. The field shuddered. The black, hungry color drained from the soil, leaving it gray and inert. The monstrous stalks, including the one holding Sibonello, withered to dust in moments. The addictive craving in the villagers' bellies vanished, replaced by a sharp, clean hunger. The field of mercy was dead. Thandazwi, weeping, gathered the ash of the field. Where Bheki had entered, a single, normal-looking maize seed lay. Not black. Not pulsating. Just a seed. The village of Izulu Lokuphumula was saved. The rains, long absent, returned timidly. Real crops could be grown again, slowly, with effort. But the village was a hollow place. They were free, but the cost of their freedom sat in the heart of the community, a quiet, unpayable debt. Bheki was gone. But sometimes, at the exact spot where he vanished, a single, beautiful stalk of maize grows in a single night. It bears one perfect cob. If harvested and eaten, it brings a vision of profound peace and a feeling of being deeply, completely loved. And then, that stalk is gone for a year. The village never eats it. They let it wither and fall, the kernels returning to the earth. They understand now. Some gifts are meant to be refused. Some miracles are inquiries from hungry things. And generosity, the purest virtue, can be the sharpest hook. Bheki's generosity broke a famine and created a predator. He learned that to save a community, he had to become its ultimate offering. The village survived, but they live in the shadow of a field that is now a grave, and a miracle that was a slow-acting curse. So, what do you think? Was Bheki a hero for his final sacrifice, or was his initial act of sharing a catastrophic mistake that doomed him from the start? Can true generosity ever be pure, or does it always create a debt, visible or invisible? Let me know in the comments below. This is the conclusion of the tale. If you are haunted by stories where the price of survival is measured in souls, then you must see the story of the leopard who gave it spot. The link is on the screen now. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more tales from the Safari of Tales. Until next time, remember, even the most selfless act can have a shadow. And in a time of hunger, everything is hungry.